Hey guys, Adam, Sophie, back with another episode of Encite Live. And today we are kind of going to talk about just what I assume will be one of hopefully many kind of like post-pandemic news pieces that we run across and like how that's affected.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the advertising marketing worlds. And this one I actually found really relatable. Ever since moving to Colorado, I haven't had a car. And so like stuff like grocery shopping has been an issue sometimes. I do live really close to a Trader Joe's, which is great for like, oh, this is what
the
I
one
want.
that sells wine.
Okay, so they don't sell wine. They do sell like beer and seltzers, which is nice. But the wine is the deal.
Right.
Like, you know, I can go get like a 6-pack of beer anywhere. I
Right.
can't get a $3 bottle of wine anymore.
Nope.
So,
Well, Go.
we might have different standards.
Digress.
But yeah, so I mean, it is convenient for certain things, but if I'm getting like a week's worth of groceries, I'm not walking to Trader Joe's and then walking back with that because
Right.
it's like a large, quantity.
Yeah.
So I like use Instacart every now and then. I order groceries, and I've been doing that for like the last 3-4 years, but it's becoming hugely popular now in this sort of like pandemic / post-pandemic reality, where people are not really wanting to go physically do something and also are looking for convenience, I think, in their lives maybe more than they were. So I was actually reading an article today, and it was like 62% of grocery shopping is now totally online, which is crazy
Wow,
to me.
that's a lot.
And 88% of millennials do their grocery shopping entirely online.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a higher number than I think I would have guessed.
Well, I guess that's true. 88%
that's
is a lot, but
crazy.
I would expect millennials to be like
Yes.
leading that charge, right?
I mean, of the different demographics, I think the others were like 60%, 30%. They are definitely at the highest end of that spectrum. But yeah, it's so interesting to me how that industry has like completely been rocked by this. And, like their supply chain is different now. I mean, it goes down to like the foods that people are ordering. Like it's more so frozen foods and things that are like always going to be, kind of in the back of your fridge. Like, oh, I've had a long day at work, I can pull this out. Those things are selling at a higher rate than they were 2 years ago when people weren't as drained maybe as they are now.
Less fresh foods and more shelf-stable, frozen kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that something that happened in an industry, something that happened in the world, something that happened in, in healthcare, whatever. I mean, because we address all these kinds of things when we develop brand strategies.
Right.
So, I mean, we have a brand visioning session, and that's one of the things is what are some of those things that are happening in your industry that could pivot your business model, right? Like, and what are those opportunities, right? I always think it's silly that we do like SWOT analysis because it just seems like it's so antiquated. And I used to do that in college.
Right. It's like a textbook thing.
Right. Like, but it's super beneficial, right? Like, so I don't know that anybody was going to predict that the pandemic's going to come and that's the major shift to online ordering. But, why wouldn't it be a shift to online ordering? Instacart was there. I mean, Instacart's been around for quite a while. And I remember using Instacart 10 years ago, every now and then, right? But but for something to shift, an industry or a product or service that happened, within something to shift the public or within something that happens to the world. I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's just the hard part is predicting that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and now that it starts to get to be ubiquitous, that's the word, big word.
So, yeah.
So if now it's part of like millennials, since you guys are already kind of growing up on this thing, but you know what I mean? Like you're using this from the beginning, it's not going anywhere, right? So that shift to that, big box store retail model is turned on its head. And we could already saw that prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic like really accelerated that big time.
For sure.
Because I was in Best Buy the other day. I've been in Best Buy a couple of different times, and there's like nobody in Best Buy.
Yeah.
Like it's, I worked at Best Buy in college, and I remember Saturdays being our day, and it was just crazy busy. There's a million people there, and the lines out, whatever. I was like, it's never like that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's basically that hybrid model, and they had to move to a hybrid model. I think retail is going to move to a kind of a hybrid model to where these big box stores, something like an electronics store like that, would be, it wouldn't be as big, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have as much square footage, but people would shop online and go there and just pick it up, or there's a little area that they could try it out, but it's not that huge experience anymore for some industries. I think fashion is still going to work because you want to go try it on. I mean, malls will still have some things because there's an experience there. You eat, you shop, there's that thing. But I think a lot of traditional retail stores, and especially grocery, is going to change.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Best Buy because I don't have the only numbers that I have.
I like Best Buy, by the way.
Yeah, we're big Best Buy fans. The only numbers that I have are for the grocery end of things, but like on the Instacart platform, I mean, like you can order from Target, you know, like you can order from those big box stores in the same way. And I've never done that, but like I could totally see being like, oh my gosh, there's this thing I forgot to get. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. But I do agree that I think some things that shopping experience is important. I bought a laptop like 2 weeks ago, and I of course wanted to like go in and like talk to the guy at the Genius Bar and like, oh, what do you actually think? You know? But obviously you don't need to do that for, you know, a week's worth of groceries.
Yeah. I mean, grocery shopping is kind of the chore, right? It's not like I'm really excited to go grocery shopping today. I mean, I bet you were pretty excited to go get a new laptop.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of a fun experiential type purchase, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And to talk about it and get excited about it. But I mean, nobody's just like, oh, I'm great. Go spend an hour getting raisins and cereal.
Totally.
Right? Like
highlight of my week. Yeah.
Right. So I can imagine that grocery stores would, and over time, right? It's not going to change tomorrow, but over time would, you know, reduce their footprint of where people can go on some level, and they would just kind of have, you know, pickup spots. That would make a lot of sense. I mean, Amazon's already doing some of that stuff. Totally. So yeah, it's interesting though. Yeah. Interesting that Instacart, in those numbers, those are interesting.
I know. I mean, I was, I guess, surprised by I mean, like I said, that 88% is high, but it does make sense, you know? And like you said, millennials have always had that kind of like on-demand expectation. And now it's like, oh, this is in every aspect of our lives.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's a change.
Yeah. So what about you? What do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I kind of want to talk a little bit of a marketing lesson.
Okay.
So quite recently, we were at a trade show. So one of the trade shows that were local here to Colorado in the manufacturing space. And one of the first ones is kind of back, you know, from COVID, right? It's back that it's in person. So, so we inevitably we went into this trade show, and our booth neighbor, so the booth next to us, and we struck up a conversation. Typically, it happens when you were at a trade show. So I was speaking with this individual. So it was one person, and he had his booth to where he sat behind a table and had his, you know, display and some pull-up graphics and he put out all of his parts that he, you know, that he had. That he was an industrial parts manufacturer, so they made parts, right? So he and I were just talking about it, and I just kind of struck up a conversation saying, you know, hey, you know, what do you think of the show? And he's like, well, you know, I've come to the show before. I don't know that it's really that worth it. I typically don't get a client out of this. So he's kind of like Debbie Downer on the whole thing. So I kind of inquired a little bit more, and I was like, how much is an average order when somebody orders from you when you get a customer?
Right.
And he told me it was $75,000. And I said, okay, that's
substantial.
Yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good for one order. And I said, how many of your customers will reorder from you? And he says, it's really high. It's like 90%. He says the reason is they make a template, or they make a frame, or a thing to make that part, and they remake it over and over and over again. So once they've paid to make that template, they don't want to remake it somewhere else because they've already paid for that. So I also asked him, I was like, so what are you doing to, you know, market at the show? And he goes, well, I sit behind this booth and I wait for people to come up and talk to me. And I thought that was pretty interesting too. Yeah. Because I thought that he, you know, really didn't have any kind of strategy or kind of integrated campaign put together to say, hey, here's the list of people that are here. I'm going to either pre-market to them. I'm going to send an email out to them. He didn't have any kind of promotion in his booth to say, hey, come by my booth. And the traditional thing for trade show is win whatever, or come by and put your card in and you could win a really nice bottle of whiskey or whatever it is, right? Like, so whatever that is, didn't have any of that.
Right.
He didn't have a strategy to follow up with anybody that came to the booth, really. He would just kind of arbitrarily kind of follow up. So I thought to myself, I was like, I think this guy, super nice guy, by the way, but I thought that he, the lack of strategy, the kind of pessimism there.
Definitely.
And the way he was looking at how he's acquiring a client, I thought he was looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was to the point to where if this particular show, I think a booth cost, under $1,000.
Right.
So for him to, and it was a 1-day show. So for him to, equate that if he doesn't get one client, that it's a failure. I don't think that that's a good way of looking at that. Right. Like, and I think nowadays in the marketing space, for us to get that one client, especially in kind of a manufacturing where sales processes may be longer, sales cycles may be longer, that we need to start to look at the lifetime value of a customer, and then what is the cost per acquisition. But if he goes to 3 of those shows, if he goes to 10 of those shows and spends $10,000 and gets one customer, and then that customer reorders 10 times, I mean, do the math.
You're more than 16 times over making
your ROI is enormous,
insane.
Right? So, if you're just equating it to that one show, to that one sale, and the whole lack of some kind of integrated strategy and to follow up and to do other things is an enormous missed opportunity in my mind.
Right.
So it was like, it was a really good lesson, I think, and it was a really good example of. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know that people still did that. Like they didn't have some kind of strategy implemented, but it surprises me every time, but it's more common than we think,
And I mean, not to, suddenly play Jeff's part here and use a sports metaphor, but we really are playing the long game, I think, when it comes to like relationship building. And I mean, there are clients that we have now that it took us months to get, or years to get.
Yep.
Or like, things start very slowly and then suddenly they start moving. But I think that room that we were in at that trade show, I mean, there's a huge amount of opportunity. So I really do think that it is like, how are you looking at your, sales cycle or your new business development cycle? And I think that like being okay with things taking a while, but like putting in that thought behind getting there is so important.
Well, I think you just hit on something, like putting in the thought, like you're intentional about something. Like you're still trying to build that relationship, but at the same time, you're still trying to build trust and credibility because somebody's not going to buy from you if they don't trust it. And in his particular case, since this is kind of manufacturing and B2B, it's not like we're a consumer product or some kind of product in the beverage industry where there's a soda right there by the grocery store. So it's great. You grab it, right? Like it's one of those like impulse purchases. Now, this is something that they're going to research on. They're going to want to talk to you about. So you do need to build that relationship. That's built into that part of the sales process. So to not have that, I just, I wish he had been more intentional with kind of how he approached that. I think he would have got a better result. And if he kind of switches the mindset of, it's not an instant gratification kind of thing in the sales piece. And we run into that a lot. Right? Like everybody thinks we send an email out, we're going to get 1 million orders. I was like, well, if that was that easy, we all do it. Right. Come on.
We wouldn't exist if it was that easy.
Exactly.
But I think that you use the word intentional, and like, I think intentionality is like that's the marketing lesson, is that like, whether it's, I'm at a trade show and I want to make these relationships with these people, or I'm building an email and I want it to like convey my message, it's intentional. And I think that that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I mean, that's basic, but
well, it's a good example, and I think is hopefully is a good lesson for everybody to kind of see that if we're going to take these steps, and we're going to go with these strategies, we need to
there's a thought process.
We need to have some Intentionality.
Mhm.
Is that even a word?
Oh yeah,
Okay, I'm looking it up.
copywriter. I know.
Scrabble.
But I feel like the theme of our episode today was like textbook lessons from like our college marketing class that are still applicable.
Yeah,
SWOT,
absolutely.
Intentionality. Like, I mean, it's basic,
Integrated
but
marketing. I had a class
important.
called integrated marketing.
Yeah.
Except it didn't have social media in the book
Because
because we actually had a physical book.
Yeah, right.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, that's it for us today. Encite Live every Friday, 9 a.m. Mountain. Tune into the YouTube channel. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya. Thanks.